Welcome to our second panel discussion of New York Fashion Week. I'm here with the wonderful Colin McDowell, acclaimed fashion commentator, wonderful designer Fred Butler, and our stalwart of our panel discussions, which is Camilla Morton, the writer. Hello guys, how are you?
Very well, although very hot.
Very hot, it's very hot.
I gather the weather's not good in New York, but it's...
No, they've postponed the US Open because it's so out of control for a little while.
Have they?
Yeah, they've had to pause it till Monday.
Yeah, that's how I know.
Which is probably why Anna's happy to be front row at Victoria Beckham.
Yeah, there she is, looking lovely. We're so British, we're talking about the weather when we should be talking about fashion.
Of course.
Yeah, Fred's
straight into the weather.
So let's talk about Victoria Beckham then. So I think she's such an interesting designer to talk about because she really sort of stands alone in her own camp of what she is. Because she's a celebrity as designer, and there's so many celebrities as designers, but they all seem to pitch at a much lower end of the market. So they collaborate with a high street brand, or they produce a little capsule collection to sell at somewhere much more accessible, whereas what Victoria's done is sort of gone in right at the high end with an incredibly high price point. What do you guys think of how she's moved from being pop star to fashion icon and fashion designer?
Well, I think she is a huge icon. I think she really does define girl power. She started off in the Spice Girls in the 90s, and then rather than doing a quick buck, she decided to go in for the long term with her interest in fashion. And she's always been interested in fashion. Even in the Spice Girls, she got the name Posh. She was the first one of the Spice Girls to get a solo cover, and I quite like that she was on the cover. She was shot on the cover for Tatler by Natalie Massenet in Chanel Couture. So she's always
going back.
but she's always had her passion for fashion. She's got a really good eye, and rather than just go in and do it too fast, she's built it up very solidly, I think. And I think it's interesting that for Fashion Night Out, Anna Wintour chose to be with her in Bergdorf, and for the introduction to New York Fashion Week, Susie Menkes chose to interview her. And I think that shows that the industry has been really impressed by her. I am.
Fred, I want to ask you a bit about how she's built her brand, because you obviously understand this as someone that designs, and she really has been very clever with her strategy. As Camilla mentioned, she's added these pieces each season, whether it's adding outerwear or accessories, or even exploring new territory like print or different fabrications. How do you see how she's built her brand?
I think that's what you do naturally. The more you learn techniques and skills and you get that locked down, then you can open yourself up to taking on other things. But I think the main thing about her is that she's always just her. She's not trying to be anything else. I think that's why she's succeeded, because that's what it is, and that's why people want it, because they can believe in it, and it's pure.
Well, she even references sort of members of her family and her clothing, so she has like the Harper bag named after her daughter, and last season she did the little sort of beanie hats, and she said they were inspired by her son and husband playing football and playing sport. So it is very authentic.
I think she's a very authentic person. I think she should actually be called Entrepreneur Spice or Grafter Spice, because she's really worked so hard, and everybody's been quick to throw sort of aspersions and criticise, and everybody wanted to hate this when it launched in 2008. I'm not sure.
That's quite a British thing.
Yeah,
I
think that's
Maybe
a British thing, and I think that's probably why she
wants
wanted to go over to New York. I mean, what do you think of her?
Yeah, Colin, you're staying very quiet, which is worrying me.
I have an enormous amount of time for, in fact, admiration for Mrs. Beckham, because I think first of all, she has a huge style, which, and as we all know, as far as designers are concerned, London is a style-free zone. I mean, they're not a bit stylish, but she's got international style and spirit and look, and I think that she absolutely understands who she's making the clothes for. She doesn't sit down and think, oh, this year I'll do some piping, or I've had a brilliant idea. One of the problems with London fashion, why it's going round and round in circles, is the fact that there's no sort of not see-through, what's the word I want?
Continuity.
No continuity with it, whereas she is absolutely focused. She knows what women want, and she particularly knows what American women want. These clothes are really too grown up for the average fashion buyer in England, I think.
Well, she knows what the groomed, intelligent woman wants.
Yes, exactly. It's all about grooming, it's all about sophistication, and it's all about being in charge. And I get very tired of people say, oh, she's just copying Roland Mouret. I think she's not. Clearly she was attracted to Roland's idea of what fashion was. And I know Roland will be is absolutely thrilled if she's used him as a sort of basis to jump off from. The fact is, we live in a city where everyone copies everyone, you know. Every dress you see, we've seen at least 15 times in the last 10 years, because they're all desperately trying to find ways of making money. Her great advantage, of course, is she doesn't need to make money.
No.
She doesn't need to make money, except I'm sure it's very important for her, because that is a way of showing her success to herself, you know. I think she was going to become a major figure, and if she stays in America, she could be the next Diana von Furstenberg. She will eventually find a dress which every woman wants. I think she's not too far away.
She's not too far off it.
No. And I can see her being in charge of the CFDA in years to come, because I've never spoken to her really. I just say hello at receptions and things. I think she must have a marvellous mind.
Yeah, she's definitely.
I think she's got
she's
a terrific
very
mind,
driven.
because she's got that. Well, it's not just that she's driven, Camilla. What she's got is she's got the creativity.
Yeah.
She's got the business nous, and she's got the intelligence to think, what do women in America, because that's where she'll be selling, what do women in America want?
Yeah.
And we all know that there are still lots of American women who are in public life or who are very rich, who want the svelte thing. They all want to be Babe Paley as she was in the 50s and 60s. And she can give them Babe Paley.
You've raised an interesting point with that kind of the what women want type thing, because a lot of the coverage that surrounded Victoria Beckham has been about her price point, which is, it is a high price point. Even her first collection, her dresses were at sort of the $1,500 mark, right up to $3,600. That's a hefty price tag for an opening collection. And
can I just say something? It's chicken feed. I mean, I'm appalled. There are young designers who've been out of college 2 years here, asking over that, nearly £2,000 for dresses that are rubbish. I think she's very sensibly priced. I mean, what is $1,000 these days, particularly to the sort of American who lives the sort of life that those clothes are about, you know?
Well, also they're well cut. Victoria wears a lyre. Well, she wears her own stuff, but she wears a lyre, she wears Roland Mouret. She understands cut and how to show off her body, and she's not been afraid to experiment with fashion, and she's done it on the public platform. And I think she's just refining more and more what women want, and that is why all those red carpet women go to her.
And I think that she's in absolutely the right place. I would worry a lot if, you know, the British Fashion Council is very avaricious. They try to bring everybody in because they've got this foolish idea that the bigger the number of people, the better it is, as if it was some circus or something. And that isn't what it's about at all. And I just hope they don't sort of offer her all sorts of blandishments for her to come here, because she's not London. In my opinion, her clothes are not London. There's no one in London doing sophisticated clothing.
I want to ask Fred a bit about London, because London's taking a bashing.
No, it's not taking a bashing. The British Fashion Council is, but not London designers. There are some marvellous designers here.
But
no,
what do you
see
see
as a separate market, isn't it?
Yeah, how would you define sort of the London market as opposed to the New York market?
Well, I think her brand is, like we've been saying, is for her. She's had experience of being at those events and trying to get garments from other people, so she's reached the point where she knows exactly what she wants and she's been able to make it. In London, in the emerging designers, I think it's just purely about being creative to establish yourself as a name and show what you can do, and then go and do something.
So do you think it's less about market in London? Because that's actually something that was talked about in our first discussion with Jason Wu, this idea of creativity for creativity's sake, as something that is much more innate to London fashion than it is to somewhere in New York. Would you say that?
Say that again, I don't quite understand what you said.
We talked a little bit at the Jason Wu show about the differences between how London designers approach fashion compared to a New York designer. And one thing we talked about is this idea of just creativity for creativity's sake. So making garments just to show off creative ability or technical ability.
Who's doing that in London?
I think a lot of the young London designers would like to think that they're putting forward a certain really key aesthetic that shows what they're about, and it's not about...
I was just going to tell you Victoria Beckham's quote that she gave to Susie, which I think is a good one. She says, "I am British born, but my aesthetic is British, but I admired US brands and I wanted to follow a US model." And I think where the British Fashion Council could play an interesting role in the future is, I don't think fashion is about cities. I think if the British Fashion Council wanted to get on the coattails of somebody like a Victoria Beckham or a huge successful brand, they should look at her business structure and help designers become on more of an international stage and more of an you don't need to pull everybody back into one place. You need to celebrate things.
There is this constant rhetoric in London of young London designers.
I think Colin's right. Victoria is in the right city for her, and she's been very shrewd about putting it in the right city. I think that London is great about experimenting and putting new ideas out there, and it's almost like a petri dish for expressing new thoughts, but it needs to learn from the business structures more and pull that in a bit more.
One thing I want to talk about with Victoria is this idea of celebrity as designer, because that does tie into, she does sort of bring up that broader issue. And with Victoria, as much as she is an incredibly talented woman, you can see that from her business sense, but also from her design. There is almost no denying that she had that incredible help by being a well-known face already. So her first collection, it was reviewed on style.com, it got the kind of press that a young designer starting in any city could only dream of. And how much do you think that's something that's sort of fair, or do you think that that's something that she's made an effort to move away from?
I don't think she should be penalised for.
I don't think there's any question of fairness about it. It's the way of the world.
Yeah. And I also
people
think
like fame, they're attracted to fame.
And now she's more than proved herself. I think she's had two careers. I think maybe this is the career that she always longed for, and you know, it was a means to an end, you know.
Yeah. If we go back to Stella McCartney, she had a terrible time when she first began. Just because of the thing.
Just because of
it was her name.
I think that Victoria Beckham did to a degree as well.
That brings up a really interesting point. Is could she have done this in London? Fred, do you think she could? Do you think people would have tolerated it in London? Because they didn't with Stella McCartney, as Colin says.
I think the thing about her is it shows she's naturally really into it. She could have just thrown money and got whoever she was advised would be the right person to work with and not be able to fool people in the industry. But I think I don't know who she does work with, but it's nice, isn't it? It's working. So I think maybe they are British people. So.
Does she have a design? I think she has a design studio. Yeah, does she?
Yeah, I think so. As I understand,
she comes over.
Well, she's always on the Skype and backwards and forwards. And I know she collaborates with Katie Hillier to do the handbags. And she's, you know, she's very involved. I think she's much more hands-on than people.
Be totally hands-on.
Well, I think a great example of that is when she had those Brian Atwood stilettos commissioned that were in the exact rose gold of her watch. And that shows such a personal involvement with the design.
She's a perfectionist, clearly.
Yeah.
And possibly even an obsessive, I don't know. It's easy for us to say, well, with all of that money, she can afford to be a perfectionist. But it's in the head, whether you're rich or whether you're poor.
But also, with all that money, she could
have it right.
With all that money, she could afford to do nothing. And I don't think it's about all of that money. I think it's about her eye and her precision, don't you?
Yeah. You're actually there, feeling it, touching it, seeing it.
I think, like all performers, and fashion designers are performers to a degree. I mean, you're exposing your soul twice a year. I think all performers are driven. They can't stop. You know, that's why they're so sad when they
feel
when
flat
they do
after
stop.
it.
And that's why when the poor old Queen has an anniversary, they drag out all these incredibly ancient men. You know, to sing on the top of Buckingham Palace, you know, and they're so relieved that someone still remembers them. But it's only people like the Queen who might once have heard their name, had a look at the picture and screamed with horror and has never forgotten, you know. So no, I think that I'm a great fan. I think she's fabulous. I'm looking forward very much to seeing the clothes.
I want to pick up on something before we actually start looking more specifically at
clothes. She's looking at me very fiercely. Should it be from me?
Yeah, you mentioned this idea of designer as performer, which I think is a really interesting idea, and that is something that is very true, this idea of the theatrical nature of fashion, and often that sort of manifests itself within the fashion show.
It's not the theatricality, actually. It's the way of projecting herself. Tom Ford, Erdem, it is very clever, Erdem's very cleverly composed persona. They're all actors.
Yeah. Do you find that, Fred? I want to get your comments.
I'm sure you are.
I mean, look at this. Look at this.
Beautifully, but you're dressed to be looked at.
Yeah.
But
you know,
that's something I have to say, that it's just something I was born with, the way I like to dress. It's like an enjoyment thing.
Yeah.
I don't think about it in the way that I'm putting out. I couldn't do it any other way, and I think that's a
misconception.
Yeah. And lots of different designers are in it for different reasons, and some people want the glamour and the glitz of the industry. Some people do it just because that's what they love doing.
And it's
But do you think
inherently
all designers
making
put
the
themselves into
stuff.
Yeah, they expose their soul, whether you're a poet,
Yes,
whether you're a musician,
absolutely.
whether you're a fashion designer.
Absolutely.
You put a piece of you
Absolutely.
out there for people to pick at.
there's something else about them. They're all, I'm going to say this because I really believe this, like all creators, they're flawed in some way. And they have to face that flaw by turning it into something good.
Yeah.
Whether they're particularly with actors and musicians, but with most creators, I think. And I think that if she's got a flaw, it's probably that she will not give up or compromise in any way. I imagine her not compromising at all. I think that's the way a designer should be. You know, but also the other thing is she's very mature in her thinking, and this is why she's not London as well. She understands how you have to develop just one thing at a time, because the public are very easily confused, and when they're confused they walk away. I'll tell you a story about Balenciaga. Have I got time?
Yes, go on.
Balenciaga, not the current one, the real one. Balenciaga was once asked by a journalist in America, of course, what are your new ideas for the next season?
That was a terrible accent.
Terrible. And he looked at her and said, new ideas? She said, yes, what are you going to give? He said, madam, I have no new ideas. And promptly had her crossed off the list of people who were going to come to the show. And it's true, what he did was what Picasso does, what Shakespeare does. You have an attitude and you develop it, not doing the same thing all the time, but develop it all the way through.
Yeah, but it's an integrity.
There are so many London designers that
No,
say
because they're
Christopher
just-
Kane, Jonathan
No,
Saunders.
I'm sorry, but I think that I think that journalists in this country are the most immature of all. Well, maybe not of all, but pretty immature. They're leading kids into throwing out new ideas and then dum-dum, and then they haven't had time to develop them. They need another one, and then if they try to go back to the thing that really motivates them, people say, oh, he starts copying himself, he's just going around in circles.
But someone like Erdem, who you mentioned.
Erdem is steely. He's like her.
Yeah.
He will
The
do
ones that
what
will
he wants to
stand
do.
the test of time
Yes.
are the ones that have the
Yes.
steel
That's
integrity
right,
going
absolutely.
through them.
He's super intelligent. He's absolutely focused. And I know, I work with him on Fashion Fringe. He listens to no one.
Yeah.
And at first it irritated me enormously. Then I thought,
I've got it.
Absolutely right. Why are you listening to me? You do it your own way, and you rise or fall. We all rise or fall
Yeah.
on what we've got inside.
But don't you think that someone like Christopher Kane, when Christopher Kane started, it would have
Oh,
been
I
very...
feel so sad about Christopher Kane. I think he's doing well, but I wonder where will he be in 10 years' time. He has been so mismanaged, in my opinion, and he's a huge talent.
But don't you think when he started, he's one of those figures who it would have been quite easy to levy the sort of criticisms you're saying, at sort of changing their aesthetic a lot, really pushing themselves each season, changing completely in terms of like colours, fabrication,
Well, all right,
silhouette.
let's ask these two. What I think, and this is in no way knocking Christopher Kane, because he's a lovely man, and I love Tammy as well, and I think that they're terrifically a unique combination, really unique combination. But if I said to you, what is Christopher Kane? What does he stand for?
But I think what it
think of
is...
shape. What is the Christopher Kane shape? Is there a shape developing? Is there a colour sense?
But I think that is our fault. I think
Of
the
course,
way that
it's the journalists'
it's the
fault.
journalists. They make a designer feel that every season they've got to reinvent the wheel,
Exactly.
whereas actually they've got to be true to who they are and what they're doing. And it's the ones that are really successful, the ones that Mrs. B and Brown's, the ones that Net-a-Porter, the ones
who buy, the people, the shops who know
the
what they
ones
buy.
that see what's happening. That's why
Yes.
Dries Van Noten doesn't need a whole big hoopla, because he knows the woman that he's dressing every season.
What do you think about this, Fred? Do you agree or do you disagree? Someone like Christopher
Sorry,
Kane,
we're getting overexcited here.
But do you
Bring us
think-
back
I'm
to-
making
bring
notes
us
on
back
the
to-
table.
yeah, bring us back to-
But
yeah.
do you think you can say what Christopher Kane's about? It might just be not as obvious.
Oh,
Let's
to
think
me
of-
it's
let-
always a really condensed
I don't think we need to-
concept, and it's always
Is it the same
down
concept?
to text. Yeah, I think
So
it's
it's
a
down to
clear.
texture. Well, let's not do it on Christopher. It's unfair.
No, let's not.
Let's all in our minds have some design.
Let's
English
get back to
design.
Victoria Beckham.
Well, I'm longing to we can see her.
What
clothes.
I want
We're
to do
busting because we
is
don't have the clothes.
look at her first collection, and then we can look at what
No, I don't.
she's showing at the moment.
Why am I going to look at her first?
Well,
collection?
Because I
let's
think this is doing what you're saying. She's came up with this complete idea of what she was about, which is about dresses women
Yes.
want. It's about defining a silhouette. It's very figure hugging. I know she's moved away from that in previous seasons. And I think it's interesting to revisit that because it really does symbolise what you were talking about, which is she knew exactly what she wanted to do.
But they're not all the same dress. You know,
No, not at all.
there's variation there.
No, but
we
there's
must
strength
remember
and
she's a
figure.
very mature woman. How old is she?
38.
38. Well, we're comparing her with young kids who are barely 30. How old are you, nothing? One shouldn't ask.
No,
Colin, you're
ask that,
No, you don't.
Colin.
I'm sorry.
Uncle,
sorry.
no, ignore Colin. He's
Sorry,
out of
sorry.
How old
order.
are you, Colin?
Oh, my God. You'd faint if you knew.
Would anyone like any more tea, by the way?
No.
And I'd like
tea
some more
figure.
water, actually.
Oh, can we get some more water? Can I have the
No, I
recipe?
think
Go on.
I think the thing about Victoria Beckham actually is Ladies' Day today, because today we've got Victoria Beckham and we've got Diane von Furstenberg. The successful women designers are the women, Diane, Stella, Victoria, that know a woman's body and they know the shape and the curves
Thank
of a
you.
woman. And I think designers that work are the ones that cut for a silhouette in a proportion that's very strong, very recognisable, very signature, that when you go into Barney's or you go into Brown's, you see that shape. And it, you know, at the end of the day, fashion is about fantasy and it is about selling a dream, but it's also about selling, and it's a business. You can have a fabulous piece of art that's totally abstract, but you have to put your arms into these things and try it on. And if it is ludicrous, then it doesn't work. And I think you have to mix the two of them.
I want to...
Let me just say this. I think there's quite an interesting line of super women.
Yeah,
It probably started in America with Donna Karan.
yeah.
I remember when she did the
body.
capsule wardrobe. She brought them over here, and we were absolutely knocked sideways. Here was a woman saying, how does the modern businesswoman have to work and live? She's in a plane today, she's in a reception that night, she's just got there. And she pared it all down to the essentials. And this had not been done by a man before, because men romanticize women, whereas
Well,
women,
no.
someone like Donna Karan would have thought, what a bloody awful life women have.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, a man wouldn't have invented the body.
No, exactly.
You know?
Is there still what women want? Is there still that market for those kind of the modern woman type clothing, or have women moved on from that, where they don't want the clothes to wear to the cocktail party, they don't want the clothes to wear on a
Uncle
plane,
Colin.
they want something fun.
All I'll say is Donna Karan's still going strong.
Yeah. But then
So
you've
is
also
Diane
got
von
new
Furstenberg.
young female designers, so someone like Fred or Simone
Yes.
Rocha, who are, their clothes aren't about what do you wear to your cocktail party, what do you wear at home, it's about what am I
I'm
about?
talking about.
No, but it's not putting it in boxes, it's giving
No.
it an attitude.
No. You know, I'll tell you another instrument, that's Roxanda.
Yeah.
Now, when Roxanda first started, I thought, this is going nowhere. All these huge bows and masses of her. Who in London wants them? Of course, she wasn't looking at London, she was looking at outside London. Now, I think she's one of the most sophisticated, as well as one of the more intelligent designers in London.
But she approached design thinking, what do women want to wear? I'm going to design a dress.
No, I think she started by saying, what do I want?
Yeah.
And then realised it was too narrow. It was too narrow.
Is that how you design, Fred? Do you think about what do women want for occasions, or is that something that, do you think any young designers do that?
I'm an accessories designer, so
Yeah.
I think my approach is always just about making a special little something that you can put on to change your existing
But do you think about them for
outfit and
occasions? Do you
just-
think a necklace for this, or is it more about?
I think it's just for every day, but it depends.
Well, it's
if
a
you want to
mood
have
embellishment,
something
isn't it?
small or something
Yeah.
bigger if you're going to an event. Yeah. So I think I'm quite a
I
specific
mean, look at what Fred's
person to
wearing. I
ask.
Yeah,
mean,
it's lovely.
yeah.
So fresh. So fresh.
Colour.
Yeah. So you think about a mood, do you think about a type of woman? Did you start designing thinking about yourself in the way that I think it's clear Victoria Beckham does?
I'd just like people to buy something to have on their mantelpiece or on their bookshelf that makes their house more interesting, and then one day when they're walking out they might feel they want to put it on, and then when they step out someone will go, oh that's nice, and then they'll start talking.
It gives a feel, there's a certain randomness.
Yeah.
Just think about, I'm feeling fed up, I'm going to have that glitzy or yes.
Well, if I'm having
that's a great way to design it. Because clothes are meant to make you feel good, and that applies to jewellery as well, I agree.
But do you think that kind of mood that Fred's talking about, that randomness and that nice kind of spontaneity is something that we're not seeing with Victoria? That's not a criticism to her, but her clothes are much more considered for this occasion, that type of woman, that body shape, that, like, the Oscars, that kind of very specific.
I don't think that it's that they're not spontaneous. I think they're very spontaneous. I think she's someone you can rely on. If you decide to be spontaneous and go to the opera, or you decide to be spontaneous and go on a date, you can grab a Victoria Beckham and know you can rely on it. I think there's different spontaneous. You can have an accessory to embellish a mood, but you want a dress that is just basically going to do all the things you want it to do, to make you look thin, to make you look empowered, to give you poise, strength, elegance, and then you embellish with a pair of sexy shoes or a great piece of jewellery.
And this, I think, is what practical and everyday design is about. Someone said of Donna Garin, I can't think who it was, it must have been a woman journalist. No, not me. No, not me, because I wouldn't know.
Oh, all right.
It said, if you put on the right Donna Karan dress, no matter what the day throws at you, you will be properly dressed.
Yeah, I guess that's similar to what Fred's saying. It's you put something on and it's like a crutch for the day. There's something there that changes your mood.
Yeah.
If I put on a pair of Manolos, the day is better. You know, it gives. I think you all have your.
You're going to get sent Manolos.
No, but you all have your kryptonite. You all have your special thing that makes you feel invincible as well as makes you feel hideous. And if you're having a hideous day, if you have that one magic thing that makes you feel. Look at Victoria Beckham, she's never out of a pair of high heels. That woman is always immaculately groomed. She is flawless. I mean, she embodies something that you do sort of aspire to. When you see paparazzi photos of people taking the bin bags out, and then you see this lady that never makes a false move, of course you want to buy into that.
Is that attainable? Do you think that that's actually beneficial?
I think you have to have something to aspire to.
Yeah?
I don't think you want to look at some reality nitwit and say, oh well, if I go on a reality show and do this, that and the other. I mean, she could have been all the cliches. She fell in love, married a footballer, blah, 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 but she has stayed very strong and focused to who she is. She's not defined by her celebrity, she defines herself.
I think that she'll be remembered long after her husband is forgotten.
She started off bigger than him, and I think once again she will eclipse him.
What?
Are you into football?
Good heavens, no. But it's common sense.
I think many footballers are different.
How many footballers do we remember from the 1930s, for example? But
I think we're all locked in a fashion.
We are locked in a fashion mind.
No, I don't think it's true. I mean, you know, the thing about football is it appeals to the immature. So the immature always want something new.
Yeah.
You know, and they're not in history. I mean, George Best, I don't know who you want.
So you think footballers always want something new?
No,
I think that's more applicable to fashion?
No, but I think...
well, maybe we're all
maybe there are more similarities.
Maybe we're all footballers Moncave, the truth.
Don't bury yourself with the footballing word.
Shall we? I want to read a...
Let's see where we are
I've
with
got her
Victoria
press
Beckham.
release here. I want to read the first line because it's so apt to what we were just saying. And the first line is, this season I wanted to show how the design criteria that is inherent to the Victoria Beckham brand can be applied in new ways while still staying true to my aesthetic and purpose. And that's just what we were saying.
It's summed up in one sentence.
So shall we have a look at the quote?
Please, yes.
Yes, finally. So let's start.
I saw she did a tweet of a Guy Bourdin photo, didn't she, for her inspiration?
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Oh.
Right.
So this is the first look.
Mm-hmm.
So this actually moves away, in my perspective, this moves away from what I was expecting because it is more fluid.
It's also very svelte, and she is.
Yeah.
Her
She
clothes
is.
are svelte.
She is her muse.
Yes.
I think what's clever with her is she sticks with those little details as well that have done so well. So that waisted
Yes.
belt
Mhm.
that just looks incredible and impeccable in all of her clothing is there.
But also I think she like Stella, dresses for who she is at the moment. I remember when Stella was pregnant, waists got looser for a little while.
It was the same with
I
Victoria.
think Victoria did that as well. I think this is quite a sort of aspirational silhouette to look at, accessorised by Manolo and Stephen Jones.
Oh,
Yeah,
You're doing a lot of name checking today, I must say.
Camilla did her research, Colin.
I like to know. Yeah.
So second.
I mean, didn't you watch Spice Movie last night,
You
Colin?
see, what I think is, if that were posed in a studio, I'm sure that skirt will fall.
Yeah,
beautifully,
really.
perfectly.
And
it's a problem with a longer skirt, you know. There are complications to get it to fall beautifully, but you just know that will. And that's so dégagé. I mean, it's sort of Lauren Bacall.
The more
Grace
effortless
Kelly.
it
Well,
is,
she's
the
a
less.
sexy designer. I think people don't like saying that word because it doesn't sound particularly exciting, but she's such a sexy designer. Look at the back of that first outfit.
Exactly. This is for grown-up ladies. And they can be anything from 18 to 50. You know?
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
not
we've
saying
seen that in
they're
her
for older
clientele,
women.
haven't
I
we?
mean, they're even in
exactly.
flat shoes. She's confident sexy.
She's definitely, I think that
Yeah.
you can see her confidence as a designer in a detail
Yeah.
like those shoes, because when she started she was much more sort of, she just had the dress and let the dress speak for itself. Well, she's grown with the accessories.
She's got a look now.
And I think she's more comfortable to do
Yeah,
something like
well, she
that.
only started off with 10 pieces. She started off doing private show with 10 pieces in 2008, and
Wasn't
she's
that
grown
clever as
and
well?
grown and grown. And I think
Yeah.
she built solid foundations, and I think that's what Colin and I were saying about, you know, London or new designers. I think you shouldn't go chasing the grand prize straight away. You should build with a long-term plan, and she's certainly done
She
that.
is really a
I
lesson.
love that skirt.
I really like these.
The whole thing is just
Chic.
so together. It's the confidence of doing it and then
Yeah.
away leaving it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's also clever if you look at an outfit like that. That's going to appeal to a
a
very
young-
young,
yes,
fun, and
absolutely.
you've got the accessories in
Yes.
there as well.
Absolutely. I love this grey, white,
Oh, sorry, I'll go
and
back.
orange or red. You can never tell quite what the
Yeah.
colours are. I think it's lovely. It's
She really loves that shade of red.
It's
You see that
very
across it.
confident.
Totally.
And she works
Yeah.
with the best. She's worked with the best all of her career, and she calls in all that she's learned. She reminds me of Audrey Hepburn's Sabrina, the chauffeur, and he always drove Mr. Larrabee in and out of
Yes.
town and listened, and she's listened to everything all of these years.
Yes.
I love one thing she said with, you know, many of her dresses have the zip from the whole way,
Yeah.
from the bottom to the top. And she said it was so when you've done your makeup and your hair perfectly, you don't have to dive into your dress and ruin it. And I think she does design with that kind of real sensibility of what do women like wearing, what do I like wearing, and those personal moments where you ruin your hair, putting on your dress.
And you've got to remember her background in music.
Yeah, she's
She
a
knows
performer.
what works
And what
on a
doesn't,
stage.
yeah.
And if we take high fashion as being a stage, and
Yeah.
people who can afford it live on a sort of stage, then it all sort of fits in. You know?
You know, you're dressing to turn heads, and
Yes.
you want to turn heads, but you also don't want to have 4 assistants to have to dress you because you've got so many fiddly buttons and corsets. She knows
Yeah.
that a zip up the back.
You want to walk into a restaurant in New York, and the maitre d' take you from table C and put you on table A
Yeah.
and bump the other person.
You also want a dress that gets off easily. You know, you don't want to be faffing around. These are dresses that would pull. You don't want to have to then go home and spend 300 hours calling the maid, calling this, calling that. These are dresses that are itching to be ripped off.
What are you thinking?
Not so
Not-
sure about this shape, which to me is leaping out just on the screen. It's leaping out as a big
I'm not-
K, you know? Dum, dum, dum.
It's
I'm
very
not
American,
sure about
though.
this.
Yeah.
It's very American,
It's flirtatious in a younger way, I think, compared to the sort of.
not flirtatious enough, in my opinion.
No, I
too
think
heavy,
it's
I think.
quite
Well,
safe. But let's go on
let's
because
go
she's
on.
done so many.
Sorry.
It would be good to see it in motion.
Yeah.
All of these.
Just pick it fast.
Yeah.
I mean, that is fabulous.
That raises
That's a
question
little dolly
of-
dress.
She doesn't live stream, and that's something I wanted to talk a little bit about, because looking at these kind of clothes as photos, it's so hard to
It
see
is.
them.
They need to be
And do you
seen.
think designers should move towards that more? Because live stream is
I
more
think-
accessible. People can understand
Well,
your
yes and
better.
no, but I think
That's
she's
beautiful.
decided not to live stream because she wants to retain that last little bit of control that she can. Tom Ford very much doesn't let people in, has his shows where it's, you know, such a cloak and dagger invitation to get in because he doesn't want it live streamed, because we've gone from shows being so exclusive and so hard to get into, where you'd beg, borrow and steal to get into, to being online, and even when Colin's banned, he's going to see it better here.
Colin Bell, what are you talking about?
Come on.
I'll go back into there.
No, but
it is a pity we can't see those skirts moving.
But you can
Well,
see again the zip the whole way at the back.
Oh, that's nice. No, but more than that, you'd like to see zooms of the fabrics. Did she give a fabric description?
Let me see. No, she hasn't, not in her press release.
Because maybe, you know, maybe some pieces, the weights of the fabrics, that would make it a really interesting cut.
Well, she often mixes fabrics, you know, a skirt in a
Well,
jersey.
she has
and
in
then
some of these, yes.
which I think is another thing that she's really clever with.
You know,
It's young, there's young pieces in here.
She does go young. And she's got fabulous legs, which is why everybody... I mean, look at that top. You could wear that top with trousers, you could do a pencil skirt with that, or you could do her little flippy skirt. I think she's giving you choices.
I think there are nods to trends in this, which is nice as well, because she's always been very sort of classic, but she is touching on things that I wouldn't say other people are doing, but things that are popular.
Aware of
I don't know whether it's so much trends.
Yeah,
I think trends are
trends.
things that editors invent to make themselves look important. I think
no
it's
design is anything
no.
in terms of trends.
I think they're pieces that you want, and if you go shopping, you know you could rely on her for a great skirt.
Well, yeah, it's part of what we were saying earlier, or at least I was saying earlier, which is that it's a continuous movement. It's a continuum. And
well, like her press release said.
You look at those and you would think, yes, I see how that links with the previous Victoria Beckham.
Even things like this asymmetric here, she's done that in all different forms, whether it's a strap.
And it's so confident now, it's so just
precise.
right.
And she likes it, she enjoys working with it, you can see.
I don't know the answer to this one, Nigel. What sort of price point would these little Audrey Hepburn type dresses be?
They would be retailing about, I think she retails around the same price points as an Elia.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very high.
But she does have a diffusion line.
She has Victoria by Victoria,
which is it's still expensive, but it's more of these kind of young, quite flirtatious dresses. She does prints in there. She did that cat print, it was adorable.
Yeah, but Colin,
the audience, the way they're straining, well, this one makes me despair of fashion people. They're more interested in her, the personality, what she is wearing, or how she's looking, than the lovely things she's just sent out.
I think that picture says a lot. Look how humble she is, how her head is down, and how her body language is.
Her award at
yeah, she was very gracious and touched when she got her British Fashion Award.
Yes.
Whereas these, you know, I think the front row and who's on the front row, it eclipses from the content of the collection too much.
Very easily, yes.
And I think that is ludicrous, because it's in 6 months I'm not going to buy, oh, I sat next to Peaches Geldof. I'm going to buy the dress or the outfit.
It's true.
Not that I wouldn't mind sitting next to her, of course.
She looks as if she'd be fun.
Who?
Peaches.
Yeah, she'd be great fun
Yeah,
sat next to you at a show. I think
she'd be
she's got a
very
nice
fun.
little kooky...
You know.
Do you agree? It's all about, well, probably not in her case, but for other people, pleasing the sponsors, isn't it? To get people on the front row, that's what it is.
The right people, oh, you're right.
But I love
that's
the way
why we've reached that stage.
You're right.
I love the way she's done her shows though. She has shunned a lot of that, like when she talked through the garments in her earlier collections, and she'd, rather than having sort of this big catwalk display, she'd talk through every individual garment, how it was made, the fabrics, the cut, and she only invited small teams. And
I think she's very, very humble. I mean, considering she is, and I checked this, she sold, the Spice Girls sold 75 million albums worldwide, making them more successful than the Beatles, the biggest selling female group of all time. She could have gone in all guns blazing, and I think rather than do her a disservice and look at this photo, we should look at her collection, because that's what she wants to be recognised for.
We've got it all together now, so we can have a look. Oh no, it's not come through. We'll go back to Mel Fashion.
Let's go backwards. I love that top.
Yes, that's a hit. That's a terrific dress. And that. And that.
You love it all, don't you?
Not all.
Biggest
No,
fan.
not all. But I think that.
But it's
These
that
last ones
are really strong.
They've lightened up enormously. They're very young.
Well, last season she did military, and it was quite heavy in the thick jersey.
Yeah.
She didn't do any of the kind of long gowns that we know her for. So it's nice to see.
Yeah, but this is summer. This is strong for summer.
Yeah.
You know, she needed to do
there is still
khakis and heavy for winter. This is, you know, a strong summer look. You know, she's taken nods of Elia, nods of Helmut Lang, nods of Narcisa Rodriguez. You know, I think she's really pulled a modern woman there.
It's a clever collection as well. She's got lots of accessories in there. It's a very sellable, buyable, wantable collection. I like these little bags she's done, because if you go on Net-a-Porter, her little envelope clutch is just sold out completely, and you can see she responds to her market.
Well, I think she's very loyal to people. I think she's loyal to the people that buy her, the people that wear her.
This is a look I think needs a little more thinking. I don't think that this K, as I see it, works that way. It might have been better when it had been shorter, I don't know, or something, but that one I think...
But we don't know whether that's two pieces. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's an idea that's going
that's
on.
A coat on top.
I think,
I don't know whether it's a skirt with a little
there's
jacket.
A zip in there which you can see.
Yes.
Fred, what do you think of that look? Keen, not keen.
There are so many positives. What's your favourite look that you've seen?
Well, all the red. Yeah.
The colour?
The red dress.
How would you style that with your pieces?
Oh,
your would look fabulous. Click onto the tangerine hot dress. Fred's jewellery looked brilliant there.
It's a collaboration in the making.
That's a nice idea.
But I love that. You're true to yourself as well. You love the colour. Yeah. Apparently there's tons of buzz on Twitter about the shoes everyone's going crazy for. I do love that flat brogue. This is a similar look. Do you prefer it there?
I think that it's better longer, yes.
There was also another reference image that was in a paper, but I couldn't zoom in to see it. Did you see it? There was an illustration of crosses. I don't know where that... So maybe that's where that's come from.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a big Instagram site on the SHOWstudio, so I'm sure that that photograph is on there somewhere.
Was that on her Twitter that she posted it?
It was for one of the New York papers. It was a double-page spread of
I think we do have
that. Put their inspiration image.
Was it this one?
It's in.
Let's open
it's
it
in
up.
the. There. If you move your mouse up slightly, can you see at the top?
This one?
It's top centre.
No.
There.
Yeah.
Ah, Victoria Beckham.
The braiding.
So this is from Women's Wear Daily.
Right.
So yeah, actually that's very clear, isn't it?
And this whole page is her, is it?
No. There are loads of people.
That's just her.
Yeah. So we've got Philip Lim down there, and that's Victoria Beckham here.
Who's this here? Because that's CZ Guest. Who
That's
was
Zach Posen.
One of the great socialites.
Well, she was one of the swans.
She was.
But I love the simplicity of that. That's her reference imagery.
Yes.
It's very small. It's hard to see from this side of the table.
But I think there's that white negative space in the middle, isn't there? Maybe that's why she's taken the jacket.
I do love that red on.
You know, and it gives you options of things that you can style it with. You know, some things are just done. There it is, perfect. Whereas others, you just rock it a different way.
Yeah. I like that she's done lots of separates.
Well, she obviously knew how difficult it was to have a microphone stuck up you.
Stuck up her dress.
Dresses and microphones don't work.
Does she give an interview afterwards?
I think everybody...
Is there some way of...
I don't think we have the power.
I think everybody rushes backstage like a vulture, but I would imagine she's got quite an control.
Oh, I'm sure, yes.
What's the future for her then? What do you
I think it's very rosy.
Gross.
Very rosy indeed.
I think she's a very strong designer. She's a strong designer now. She's not just an icon, she's a strong designer. She's up.
Yeah, and I think she's a businesswoman as well.
Yeah, she's up for a British Fashion Award, but you know, that aside, she's up for a lot of more stockists. Every season she's evolving and expanding. She's got her shop opening in London, and I think she really has put down very strong foundations. She wasn't in it for a quick buck or a cover. She's long haul, and I think that's why it's going to work.
I agree with all of that, and I think that she has to stay in New York because that's the place that will make it happen.
Do you think more of our designers would benefit from having that support?
Well, it's a very difficult question. I mean, it obviously helped Matthew Williamson a lot, but other people who've gone out there have not been helped so much. I think that in America, you're only as good as the people who are doing your PR. And their PR is very different from English PR.
Yeah.
It's much more focused, much more aggressive, and probably very much more expensive, I would imagine.
Yeah, but also it's much more structured. You have RSVPs, you have things much more controlled. In America, everybody faithfully goes and does a market appointment. Here, you'd be lucky if you see anybody at the end of your show.
And they're very well organised. I'll be getting tickets for London Fashion Week. They come to me through the Sunday Times, and they're saying, oh well, we're going to get the other ones for a show later in the day, whereas I have been having, and I'm sure you have as well, I've been having emails for at least 2.5 weeks now about New York, even though I haven't been in New York for 3 years now. But they're just so on the ball, you know? If he's coming, we want to know, and we want to know well in advance.
I think each city has its own merits, its own benefits. Each city has its own charm. It's a different love affair, and you have to have 4 different chapters before you can bring together the whole piece of the pie. I think that New York is really good for young designers at the beginning because buyers start with an empty checkbook. They haven't spent their allocated budget for the season. I think that buyers and designers are good in London because they know that this is a place where you can find a new person, you can see a new jewellery designer, you can see a new accessories designer, and maybe London's strength is that they have all this sort of undiluted ideas that you can then mentor and put into companies as well as nurture and develop. And I think that London should turn into a nurturing city. I think that there is a lot of talent.
But do you not think
here.
it is that already with things like
I think it's quite a nurturing city.
I think it's a nurturing
the people
city,
who are doing the nurturing aren't very good. But I can't bear you to be saying all of this. You sound as if you're the Archbishop of Canterbury.
I was trying.
I want you to be fair.
I was
Fred,
trying.
Our friendship has not gone for well over 10 years because you're fair.
Oh no,
What
Colin.
fairness? No,
Colin, but you
I'm
can't.
being silly, but I think that.
No, but if
I'm not
London
saying
can't,
anything more about
no, but if London
it's
can't
too
answer
bad.
back,
So would you not like to see someone like Victoria do what someone like Stella McCartney's done, which is hold small things in London, sort of almost
yes,
as a nod
why
to her
not?
heritage? Would you like
Yes.
to see that?
I mean,
But
I
I
think-
don't know where the people are who buy the clothes.
Or
I
Net-a-Porter.
Yeah,
Well,
but they're
they
international.
sell
They've actually
clothes,
tweeted, they're saying they absolutely love the collection, so you can see the
Yeah.
enthusiasm from buyers
Oh, this
here.
would do marvellously well on Net.
But I think shows are about selling clothes. They're about, you've got 20 minutes to show this is who I am for a whole season, and I think you've got to sort of, it doesn't matter where you do it as long as you do it right and
But
you
aren't
have
they
it with a
about selling
plan.
clothes anymore? Like, I do agree with you, but there are, like, I did an
Well,
interview
that's
with Medium
why
Kirchhoff, and they talked about, actually it was about getting their aesthetic and their idea and this kind of wholeness about their brand across, and the show becomes ever more kind of, rather than just being about the clothes, it's this whole aesthetic. Do you think that
Well,
it
they
is?
always were.
But, so are they about selling clothes? Or
Yes,
is it,
of course they are.
do you agree, Fred?
Well, that's at the end what we're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
what
It's
are they
just
for?
different-
Yeah,
different
what are they for?
formats of
Otherwise.
how you
But I think
see
in
it.
London there's such this idea that it's not about the buyers, it's not about selling, it's this idea of your aesthetic.
Well, I think the longer you focus on that, the smaller your business is.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's not talk about that. It's so depressing. Did you see the end of the Olympics
The closing ceremony.
with that
I
cringe-making little fashion thing?
I was impressed by the Spice Girls.
Oh, they were marvellous.
The
this
Spice
one in
Girls-
particular, because her taxi was a bit...
She was the
terrific.
chicest one,
Yes, she is. You
and-
were hanging on for grim death, but you wouldn't think
Yeah.
so. Look at that. I mean,
She,
that's-
and also I think she was a brilliant advert for London fashion because she wore Giles. They were so slick. They were the most tweeted about event of the Olympics. They had 116,000
Yeah.
tweets per
Well,
second.
You can see exactly why.
And you can see
You
why.
love her, Colin. This
I
is
just
true
love her strength.
Yeah.
What I thought was so deeply embarrassing about that little thing was, first of all, I don't know who did it, and I don't want to know who did it, but that person should be taken out and quietly shot, because it was just so pathetic. If you compare it with the beginning,
The opening ceremony.
What do we have to be proud of in the opening ceremony? The national health system. How the hell do you make that interesting to the world? It was a fabulous fantasy. Now, why didn't someone in the British Fashion Council have the now say, you know, what are we known for? We're known for our education system, for our nurturing of young people. We can make a fabulous sort of musical thing about this. And they sent out 6 girls who looked so worried and they didn't know what they were doing. Really.
Well, I think the opening ceremony was so much more successful than the closing
well, that's
ceremony.
where they put all the money.
I think
there was a different energy, I think, at the opening ceremony.
I also think the closing ceremony didn't really matter because the Olympics were about the heroes on the track and the people that had got the medals.
Yeah,
I
so
thought
why
the whole,
shove in fashion?
I mean, to be honest with you, I thought the closing ceremony was a waste of time. I would have liked to have seen Mo Farrell or the gold medalist, not these people.
Jessica Ennis wore one of Victoria Beckham's dresses sort of after she won her gold, which I think really sums up the kind of woman
I think that sums up the type of woman that should be wearing Beckham.
But don't you agree with me that we've got something to be proud of with we're always bleating on about our fashion education, and they could have done something with that and brought it to the whole world. The whole world now knows we've got a very, despite all the problems, we have a fabulous national health system, you know, better than anywhere else. We could have said, because I think it's probably true, we have the best education for fashion in this world. Who would know it by seeing those somewhat tired and old supermodels walking
Yes, but
out,
did you see in the opening ceremony, a lot of the clothes in the opening ceremony were done by new emerging designers.
Yeah, there's Christopher Shannon did a lot of
I thought that, you know, that was interesting and that was great.
Yes.
But also, I don't think fashion should have gate-crashed the sports party.
Well, I think they were probably trying, I don't know that we can blame that on fashion. I suspect that the powers that be wanted to tick all the boxes that are
I'm sure.
make Britain special. I would hope that that was the case.
No. I mean,
God almighty, what a waste.
But Victoria Beckham, she makes Britain special. And her dress was featured in it.
Yes, she does.
I think the Spice Girls of the closing ceremony, I think they should have each have been in a London designer, and I think they showed what was great about London
Seeing
women.
Someone like Victoria Beckham in Giles.
I think that was, and also that was the image, like nothing else was in the newspapers. The only image and the only part that anybody wanted to see of the closing ceremony. Why they put it on so far into the whole situation, I don't know, because the Spice Girls outstripped Her Majesty the Queen appearing with Bond, which was my favourite part of the opening.
I knew it would be.
How did they agree to get her to do it? It was amazing. I want to just, before we close up, I want to just return to Victoria and just talk a little bit more about her. So do you think the reaction to this collection is going to be universally strong?
Well,
I would hope so. I think there's a bit of an agenda with some female journalists about her.
Why do you think that?
Jealous.
I think they're jealous of her. She is the woman who, by her standards, not necessarily by Mother Teresa's standards or anybody else's standards, she's got it all.
Yeah.
And she's earned it all. And her husband's earned it all. She doesn't have a banker husband who's fiddling away at the books to make us poorer and poorer as the years go on, you know. No, I think there will be people who snipe at her.
Do you agree with her? Do you think other women...
I would hope not, but I think they will.
I don't know about commenting on that, but what I did want to just say before it finishes, I think she'll sell well internationally because there's the mix of the clothes that are really obviously nice and wearable and empowering, and also there is the unavoidable thing that you're buying into that brand.
The brand.
And across all markets, that's what the boutique selling at that price point the women want.
Yeah.
Go on, what are you going to say, Al?
I think that what we should do is we should have the space capsule idea. Now, if we were putting artifacts of our civilization in now, and we put one of her dresses in, and 100 years' time, some funny little creature on the moon comes up and tries it on, they'd understand, first of all, what sex is about on Earth.
I think that's a perfect way to end.
Yeah, I think congratulations to Victoria Beckham. I think there's a lot of shows to look forward to today, but I think she's more than standing her own alongside everybody. And I think if you look at any of the Spice Girls lyrics or any of her world, she is true to what she is girl power. So well done to her.
Well done, Victoria.
Should we give her a round of applause?
Yeah.